The restaurant buzzed with laughter and clinking silverware, a place where families came to relax on a Friday night. At a corner table, Marcus Johnson sat with his wife Angela and their 2 kids. They had dressed up for the evening, excited to share a meal together after a long week. But beneath the cheerful lights, a tension began to simmer. Their waiter, a young man named Derek, approached the table with a stiff smile that barely masked his disdain. His eyes lingered too long on the family's dark skin, his tone clipped and dismissive as he asked what they wanted to drink. Angela exchanged a glance with Marcus. She had seen that look before, too many times. Marcus's calm, as always, simply placed their order. 2 lemonades for the kids, water for my wife. I'll have iced tea. Derek scribbled without looking up, and muttered something under his breath that made the kids shrink in their seats. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Other tables were served, laughter spilling into the air as plates arrived, steaming hot. But Marcus's table remained empty. Finally, Derek returned, balancing a tray. With deliberate slowness, he set down to lemonades a glass of water. And without warning, tipped an entire pitcher of water directly onto Marcus's lap. Ice clattered across the table, soaking his shirt and pants. The restaurant fell silent. Angela gasped. The children's eyes widened in horror, and Marcus froze, his hands gripping the edge of the table. Derek smirked, his voice cutting like a knife. Oops, guess accidents happen, but everyone knew this wasn't an accident. It was humiliation, served ice cold in front of Marcus's wife, his children, and a room full of strangers. Whispers began to spread. Some diners shifted uncomfortably. Others looked away, pretending not to see. The kids sat trembling, their evening ruined in a single cruel gesture. Angela's voice cracked as she whispered, "Marcus, please, let's just leave." But Marcus didn't move. Slowly, deliberately, he stood, his soaked clothes clinging to his strong frame. His eyes locked on Derek, not with anger, but with a steady calm that silenced the room even more. "Is this how you treat families who come here to eat?" His voice carried deep and controlled. Derek sneered, rolling his shoulders. "If you people can't handle a little spill, maybe you don't belong here." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The words hung heavy, undeniable, dripping with hate. Marcus's children buried their faces against Angela's side. The entire restaurant held its breath, waiting for Marcus to explode, to lash out, to meet fire with fire. But instead he simply sighed, a weary sound that carried years of injustice, and turned his gaze toward the manager rushing forward. The manager stammered apologies, his face pale, but Derek stood firm, arms crossed, daring Marcus to push back. What Derek didn't know, what no one in the room yet realized, was that Marcus wasn't just a customer. He was the man who owned the very walls around them. And in that moment, Marcus decided it was time everyone learned the truth. Marcus let the silence stretch, his soaked shirt clinging to his chest as he looked around the room. The diners who had been whispering now stared openly, waiting for his response. Angela reached for his hand, but he gently pulled away. Stepping closer to Derek, "You think humiliating a man in front of his family makes you powerful?" Marcus asked softly, his voice steady. "Or is it the fact that no one ever holds you accountable?" Derek's smirk faltered for a split second before he scoffed. "You don't get it, do you? This place doesn't want people like you. Should be grateful I even served you." Angela gasped. The children hid their faces, too young to understand why someone would hate them for the color of their skin. Murmurs rose from the crowd, some angry, others awkwardly silent. The manager rushed in, flustered. "Derek, that's enough. Apologize right now." But Derek just laughed. "Why should I? What's he gonna do, ask for a refund?" Marcus's eyes darkened, but not with rage, with resolve. He slowly pulled a set of keys from his pocket, letting them jingle in the air. "You really don't know, do you?" Derek frowned. "Know what?" Marcus turned, addressing the entire room. "I'm not just a man here with his family. I'm the owner of this restaurant. My name is Marcus Johnson. I built this place so families could share a meal without fear of disrespect." Gasps filled the air. Forks dropped, conversations halted, and even Angela's eyes widened. The children peeked up at their father with awe. The manager's jaw went slack. "Mr. Johnson, I didn't realize." Marcus raised a hand to silence him, his gaze never leaving Derek. "This isn't about what you realized. It's about what you allowed. A man you hired thought it was acceptable to humiliate my family in front of all of you." Derek's face flushed red, but instead of backing down, he sneered. "So what? You think owning this place changes anything? Money doesn't change who you are." Marcus stepped closer, his calmness like a storm about to break. "You're right, money doesn't change who I am. It exposes exactly who you are." The crowd shifted, uncomfortable now. Their murmurs filled with disapproval for Derek. A woman in the back called out, "We saw everything. He poured it on you on purpose." Another voice added, "You don't deserve to serve anyone." Derek's confidence crumbled as the weight of the room turned against him. He glanced toward the manager, but the manager had already shaken his head. "You're done here, Derek. Get out." But Marcus wasn't finished. No, he won't just walk out. He turned back to the diners. This restaurant was built on respect. Respect isn't just for the ones who look like us or dress like us or come from the same background. It's for everyone. Tonight, this man reminded me that even in a place I built, hate can creep in if we let it. But I won't let it. The applause started slowly, a few claps echoing in the silence, then building until the room was filled with the sound. Angela squeezed his hand, tears glistening in her eyes. The children looked at him with pride. Derek's face twisted with rage as he stormed toward the door, muttering curses under his breath. But the sound of the crowd's approval drowned him out. Marcus turned back to his family, kneeling down so he was eye level with his kids. "Don't ever let anyone tell you you don't belong. This place is ours, just like this world is yours. And no one can take that away." His children nodded, their small faces glowing with newfound strength. But Marcus knew this wasn't over. Derek's hate wasn't just a slip of the tongue or a cruel prank. It was deeper, more dangerous. And Marcus had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time he'd need to stand up, not just for his family, but for every family that walked through his doors. That night, after the crowd dispersed and the last dish was cleared, Marcus sat alone in his office, staring at the security footage. Every second of Derek's cruelty had been recorded proof that couldn't be twisted or denied. Angela walked in quietly, setting a steaming cup of tea on his desk. "You handled it with more grace than anyone else could," she said softly. "But I could see it hurt you." Marcus leaned back, the weight of the night pressing on him. "It did, not just for me, for the kids, for every person who's ever walked into a place and wondered if they'd be treated as less than human." Angela placed her hand on his shoulder. "So what are you going to do?" Marcus looked at the screen, then at the family photo hanging on the wall. His voice was firm. "I am going to turn this pain into something bigger than us." The next morning, news crews lined the sidewalk outside the restaurant. The story had spread overnight, shared by customers who had filmed the shocking moment. Social media buzzed with outrage, and by sunrise, people across the city knew what had happened. Standing before the cameras, Marcus didn't hide the truth. He showed the footage. He spoke about what it meant to be humiliated in front of his children. And then, instead of lashing out in vengeance, he announced something no one expected. This restaurant will now host a monthly event we're calling Unity Dinners. Free meals for families from every background, black, white, immigrant, poor, rich, doesn't matter. We will break bread together, and we will remind this city that respect is stronger than hate. The crowd erupted with applause. Reporters shouted questions, but one voice rose above them all. "Mr. Johnson, what about Derek? What will you do with him?" Marcus paused, his face solemn. "Derek will never work here again." But this isn't just about one man's hate. It's about a culture we have to change. Don't fight darkness with more darkness. We fight it with light. Later that week, the first Unity dinner was held. Families of all colors filled the restaurant, laughter replacing the tension that had once haunted those walls. Children ran between tables, sharing slices of cake, while strangers became friends over warm plates of food. At the center of it all sat Marcus, his children beaming beside him. Angela squeezed his hand and whispered, "You didn't just protect our family, you gave hope to everyone else." Marcus looked around the room, his heart full. That's what ownership means. Not just owning a restaurant, but owning the responsibility to make things better. The memory of Derek's cruelty would never fully fade. But it no longer defined the Johnson family. Instead, their story became a testament that dignity, courage, and love could turn humiliation into healing and prejudice into progress. And as Marcus stood to thank the crowd that night, his voice carried the lesson that would outlast the evening. Respect isn't earned by the color of your skin or the size of your wallet. It's the birthright of every human being. No matter who tries to strip it away, you must stand tall and remind the world of that truth. The applause thundered, echoing with unity. For Marcus, his family, and everyone watching, it was more than a dinner. It was a promise. So if this story moved you, take a moment to share it. Spread the reminder that dignity and respect are not privileges. They are rights. Together we can make sure no family ever feels less than human again.